this shit. Down on this dude. What you mean? That's another chick. Coming in, going out on some other shit. Try to rip us off, best believe it, that's a no-go. Never trust nobody, even family, that's a no-no.
I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. Put up, or shut up. Put up, or shut up. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper.
Left roll on my neck on, cheat codes to the game though. Big tipping on the regular, then jet became a schedule. I got it straight out of mud, I do not need a judge. My money do not budge, money local count it up. My roses is looking real cold, I diamond shining with the gold. Maybe I should eat it up, put it right down on the stove. I'm just a thing you don't know, I'm just a thing that I don't show. I got the game in a chokehold, you try to steal from me, I know. Bank account, big account, I'm about to tip you now. Look, I got a bounce, I do not play around. I'm at the records and now, stand up and pipe it down. Regular tipping like wow, I'm paying you, don't need to frown.
I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. Put up, or shut up. Put up, or shut up. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper, yeah, I'm a big tipper. I'm a tipper.
Welcome to the Power of Voices. Boy, I'll tell you, I'm really thrilled tonight. It's Anna Marie on the Comedy Hour Live, and I have Miss Rachel Lovey. I'm telling you right now, there's a whole lot of experience in this room tonight. Between my board guy, Lee Michaels, always sitting there and working my knobs. To what we have tonight. I'm telling you, this is how you doing tonight, young lady.
I found this place. I'm thrilled.
Yes.
I was next door. It shows how close you are, and you don't even know it. You just have to walk down the street.
Hey, don't laugh. A lot of my youngins, I had one end up in where was she? San Bernardino? On the 210, I'm like, yeah, you're not going to get here on time.
Somehow that woman, what's her name from, now that I have an iPhone again. I had an iPhone, lost it, and I like the Google lady much better than the...
Siri?
Siri.
The Siri lady?
She actually said to me one day, she thought I said something with my mother. And she said, you know, I don't know who your mother is. And for that matter, I don't know who you are. I said,
that's all right. I usually tell myself I've been myself lately, so that's okay. that love affair with the phone is like, where would we be with? You can't even get somebody. If I happen to just not have enough battery on my phone, and you have to dial somebody, no one knows anybody's number. Okay, so if your phone is dead, you're dead. See ya. I mean, does anyone think about that? That's it. Maybe I should get that, a digital chip in my, and we'll invent that, Lee. Digital chip with the information that if your phone dies, you just scan it so we can find you. See that? I'll put it up your ass. I'll guarantee.
I knew that was coming.
That's it. You knew that was coming. Stupid question. Wherever I'm going to put my foot. Well, I'm glad that you decided to come in and share a little bit about yourself. Now, before we came on the air, you were just about to tell me that you started doing monologues.
At 5 and 6 years old,
Get the hell out of here.
I had one aunt was a stand-up comic. The other aunt was a dance and drama teacher, and she wrote me inappropriate monologues for 5 and 6 year olds. Inappropriate.
Really? And do you remember any of them?
I remember all of them.
Well, let's enlighten.
Well, the first...
She didn't do the limericks of the man from Nantucket.
No.
Okay.
She had a crush on her brother, my father, and one of them was called Daddy's Sweetheart. If Mommy hadn't married Daddy, do you think he would have married me? Yeah. And the other one, the first one was called, I was 4 and a half. It was called No Hope. Yeah, nice way to start off.
Right. Your foot, hope. No hope.
Yeah.
Oh, goodness. Again, we got to love our relatives. You know, they say you become an adult to overcome everything that happened to you growing up as a child.
My other aunt was a stand-up comic. She was like that Mrs. Maisel, only she was big and fat, and she was called Cookie, appropriate enough. Cookie Cohen.
Cookie Cohen?
Cookie Cohen.
That's a great name, though.
Yeah.
I like that.
She was great, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, that would be of an era of, and you said you were from Boston.
Right? From Dorchester.
From Dorchester.
Actually from Roxbury and Mattapan.
That's tough. I want you all to know where she's from. That's a tough area. Not anymore. I mean, what's funny is how now all the places that, like everything else, now nobody can afford to live there that left there.
It's generated. Yeah, it's not generated.
They don't tell you that when they say you can never go home. Yeah, because you can't fucking afford it. That's why you can't go home.
Went home once, and this guy tried to sell me the house. That was right before the gentrification, and I lived on Blue Hill Avenue. I'm sure you've heard of Blue Hill Avenue.
Everybody's heard about Blue Hill Ave.
Well, I lived on 1, 2, 3, 4 Blue Hill Avenue, and I meet people to this day that remember that address.
Wow. Yeah, I mean, it is amazing, coming from... Now, how long has it been since when did you leave? Was it as soon as you could?
I left as soon as I could. Well, I mainly went to New York, and I was at the Woodstock Festival.
Yeah.
And you were. Well, we performed. I was with a theater troupe that actually told them to come to Max Yasker's farm.
Are you kidding me? That's awesome.
We told them because we were in a theater, and we heard the Woodstock Festival lost their last 2 venues. So we wrote them and said, our landlord is best friends with Max Yasker. He's got a great big farm. The rest is history. A week before the festival, we rehearsed in the space, and we were on a drug called STP that I've never heard of since. Never heard of it since. Yeah. But we blessed the space. So then, years later, we blessed the space, and everybody is still talking about it. Right. So
imagine that, though. Because, there's so much history that, I hope you've shared a little bit of that on stage as when you do your comedy. Of course, it's based on the reality of life.
Exactly. And I wear my Woodstock badge of honor that I was so affiliated. It was like, and we were with the rock people. So that gives you a little extra edge, when we actually
came out of that?
A rock group.
And, at the time, you didn't realize what was happening on that level, did you?
Well, not really. I mean, we knew it, but everything was so blurry anyway. People say to me, were you on acid at Woodstock? I said, there was not anybody at Woodstock that wasn't on acid.
On acid, right. Yeah, it's funny. I went to a big music festival in Live Oak, Florida. And one of the kids had come up and he's like, hey, you got some acid? And he's smoking a joint and he's drinking. And I said, what are you guys, like the ADD generation of like getting messed up? I said, well, why wouldn't you just pick one? And he told me the strategy of how each drug and what it did to, prolong. And I was just like, no, man, I'm good. It's like, are you bored or what?
Yeah, well, I got out of it as early as I got out of... Just like I got out of Boston, I got out of LSD as fast as I could because you don't mess with it. You don't mess with it.
No, eventually, I had friends that actually suffered from reoccurring trips because it goes into the spinal fluid,
Well, I know that part of my act, I go, peace, love, good hashish, shanti boom to the Maharish. We were all into that old drug trap, what I wouldn't give for a good flashback. I think I'm having one. Then we go, no, that's not a flashback. That's a hot flash. Get over it.
Get over it. That's so fun. And have you seen, obviously when you started comedy, was it harder for women back when you started? Because I had someone call me, you speak of Mrs. Maisel, and of course everybody's saying like, oh, you're actually the real Mrs. Maisel because of my situation. But they said that the credibility of a woman could never do what she was doing at that time.
It was harder and it was easier. It was easier because there were so few women that you were an oddity, but you had to be better than the men. You had to be better than the men.
Did you get a chance to meet Joan Rivers?
Yes, I did. But Phyllis Diller actually gave me the book, The Magic of Believing.
Really?
Because she was very much into the Church of Religious Science and The Magic of Believing, and she actually gave me the book. So that was very exciting.
I grew up watching her. I grew up watching her on Carson. I grew up watching her, and that unmistakable laugh. That she had. And I mean, in doing comedy, there is certain things that I notice each comedian has. It's a trait of their own, a certain look, the way they carry themselves.
And I think with women, it's almost more, it's more so that they're more defined and more of a character. There's so few women that are just could get away with what the men get away with. And Elaine Boosler was so good.
Oh.
And she still is so good.
Right.
But she just got in trouble for nothing, yeah.
That would be me. The kid who couldn't stay under the radar. I joke about that all the time. It's like there's something about my personality. Whether I was in class, at work, I was always either Lentini, The Office.
But don't you think that's a good quality for comedians?
Well, yeah, because
you stick it. You're willing to stick it out. Stick yourself out, even if you don't mean to, even if it's unintentional.
Right. Well, very unintentional. And the fun part of that is that when I've gone backstage and I've been in the green room and I'm interviewing comedians for the purpose of this, and I've had them on the show, they're all like, "So you do comedy?" And I'm like, "No, I don't do comedy." And they're like, "Oh no, you carry yourself like a comedian. You got to do stand up," which is leading up to Do you remember? Because when I do my first 5, which for me is like an exhale, but it's not, because I've learned there's an intense amount of respect I have for what you do. For every person who calls himself a comedian, that word is just to me, it holds so much because of what comedians endure. I watched Shang tonight. He gave a live video, and he's been traveling, and he said, "I'm tired. And don't think that my energy is down because of that. It's just been, this is a hard life, but trains, planes, automobile, buses." And you do go to shows where you've got to be exhausted, and you got to bring that energy.
Well, one of the things that really helped me, I taught comedy traffic school.
Shut up. I had to take that.
I had to be up at 8 o'clock in the morning, and I was doing my Comedy Store show till 1, 2 in the morning.
And she's talking about the Comedy Store, the actual Comedy Store on Sunset.
And, right. So I kind of renewed the show that I did was called Women in Comedy Who Don't Have a Series Yet, that Edwanda White actually wrote a fabulous rap song to. And, but we remade it it was it had been a woman's show a while before that, but then it kind of lost its identity. And we came in, like gangbusters out of that. Chelsea Handler came out of that room.
Really?
Just a whole bunch of people. And then people would stop by, like Roseanne, like, Sherry Shepherd. All kinds of people came out of that room, but I had to be up the next morning, and sometimes driving at 7 in the morning to go to comedy traffic school.
I feel that.
How could I be on? And it was easy, and that's why I loved it. Especially, I don't need very much coffee to get me going. I had a couple of sips of coffee, and people were just amazed. How can you be on this time? And then so many of the people didn't want to be there. And a lot of people put it down, but I thought it was great training.
Well,
great training.
The other thing too is like what's fascinating. What I find is happening. The comedy that I grew up with, there's this incredible amount of sensitivity that's never been out there before, and it's like I don't know what people are expecting going to a comedy show. Do they expect this isn't a TED Talk. This is a comedy show. Well,
it's going so many different ways because I will admit, when I started, I did something and somebody wrote an article. I've gotten a lot of press because I'm a good publicist too, so that helps. So, but a guy wrote, and this was in the 80s, pretty early on, wrote that my comedy was comedy that heals. And he called it psycho comedy, which is very trendy right now. Very trendy right now. But I think it goes both ways. There's a lot of, sophomoric comedy out there, and there's a lot of great stuff out there with a lot of meaning, because there's so much comedy. It's just got to go every which way. And I also do something called the hoping, coping, groping, laugh experience. And this is very popular nowadays. A lot of people are doing seminars and stuff, both for comedy and to blend comedy with your life.
Okay.
And to also, because one of the things that I felt, and I feel that I was seduced by comedy, because I was doing okay as an actor. I was off Broadway, and I was doing okay. But I see people that gave it up long time ago, but whenever they can, they'll creep out there and do it again. That they can't get away from it. And that's a lot of actors that have done very well. Comics, Seinfeld has got to go back out there and do his.
So you think that once the bug bites me, from what I've been listening to in this room, it's something that it's a calling.
It
chooses you. You don't choose it.
You kind of feel that if you get it right, that you'll get your life right. Because there has to be a balance. You have to be sensitive enough to be funny and to be vulnerable. But you can't be too sensitive, because then it's hell. Because what happened to me when I first started doing stand-up by myself, I had a partner at one time. It was Rachel and Gersowitz. That was a whole other story. You can imagine. But when I started doing comedy, I relived every rejection that I ever had in my whole life that I felt that I had already dealt with.
Wow.
And it took me a long time to get good, and I had a lot of background. I was a variety.
How did that play? I'm curious, because as I step into this, and God knows I got a lot of issues with that. Willie Barcena was on my show, and he said, the reason you're not doing comedy is you got this thing with rejection. I'm like, well, yeah, most people do. But it's that vulnerability thing. How does that?
So it's that balance of being vulnerable enough. Not only that, because then you can get to the juicy material that you want to get to, because you're vulnerable. And to me, that's the most exciting thing is, translating, misery into comedy. And that's why they call my stuff psycho comedy, when comedy and misery come face to face and you don't know which is going to win. I came to LA to get away from my problems. Sure enough, they caught an earlier flight. They told me to find myself, I wasn't
Did
lost.
you write that one night,
Yes.
just quietly, just came in your head?
I occasionally work with other people. Mm-hmm. And one of my favorite ones that I like about therapy is this. My therapist said she didn't like my attitude. And I slapped her and I said, bitch, if I had a good attitude, do you think I'd be here? And this comes of really out of a therapist that said to me, I don't like your attitude.
Oh, my God.
I love the stuff that comes out. What's so much fun, and it's going to be easy for you if you have that awareness, is that as you go along in your everyday life, you'll give yourself the setup. And sometimes you'll give yourself the setup and the punch. But you already have all the setups. You have the setups. And then it's a question of just fine-tuning it and working out.
You also teach, right?
Well, I taught comedy traffic school, and I try to, what I love.
Mentoring?
What I really love, which is I'm going to do a show with this, I love stand-up improv. I love working off the top of my head.
Yes.
I love doing that. And the thing is, and you could do this well, but what it is, there has to be, and I think this is what I can set up, and this is what I will be teaching, is there has to be that kind of focus. You can't, because if there's no focus, then people, who cares? But if there's a real focus in the room, then so many people that do comedy can do it off the top of their head.
I find it really restrictive of that. That's one of the things that I've always been really good at. It's just been, I'm really quick. And I usually hear things when you do. It's just the way my mind's wired. I grew up with a house full of smart asses. And literally, sarcasm and smart assism was how we all talked. In fact, like I said to my friend, well, Margaret, and I said, how do I how do I work this? And she said, you have to give it a voice. She said, you could actually use what you have to say and use your mother, because she could give, because the way you portray everybody who knows me, when I tease about my mother, are like, I don't know why you're not doing her on stage. You know, and I said, because she kicked my ass, even though she can't move, she'll find me and kick my ass if she hears. My sister's like, you so aren't going to say those things. But there's so much truth. I've heard every comedian that has sat in this chair talks about their beginnings, family, and how that integrates into what they do later on in life in comedy.
Sure, and so some of the stuff that I found so absurd about my family. I mean, Jewish people that were living in Roxbury, my father is a lawyer. Hello, a lawyer. Jewish people not interested in money. You know, Dad, how come we don't have a car? A car? He said this to me. I drove a Jeep in the Army. I already had the experience. What do I need a car for? I mean, when I think about some of the things.
These are true things, though.
Yeah.
You can't make this up. That's beautiful.
And, yeah, it's just it's just a blend. But that's the best way to start writing, is to try to, that's what this class will be good for, too, is for people to get out there and riff.
Well, yeah,
and then tape it, and then it's going to be so much easier to write material.
Well, the idea of the absurd, like the way my mind's wired. My mind is wired where I go, could you actually say that? Jeffrey Dahmer and all that came out, right? And what have you. My mind immediately goes, he's in hell. He's in the men's room. He's got the door shut. He's taking a dump, and somebody bangs on the door and says, "What are you shitting me?" But I mean, my girlfriend goes, I go, could you actually? I said, because there's so many things that play on words. And then I watched a comedian do a whole set on, he wasn't from this country, on the word shit. You know, how is it something that's really bad? Well, that's bad shit. But then when it's great,
it's good shit.
Right. Yeah. You know, like I just thought about all that stuff. It's a never ending, what you're looking at. Like, I'm an artist. So someone tells me you are too. And you, as an artist, most people would see a square in two things. My mind goes 60 other places as far as like faces. And that's the same with words, as to how you can take words and just twist them enough to turn it around.
Exactly. And then you can really enjoy the process of creation, because that's, the creating the comedy is really a great, if you're an artist particularly, it's a great process. So I think of stand-up as as almost being a sculptor, and you also have to sculpt away those words that are not helping your cause. So the best jokes are really sculptured pieces of words. And it's funny.
I love that you just described it like that, because I'm going to add to that. I'm going to go to do open mics, and the advice Nancy Bellany, I can't thank her enough, and shout out Nancy giving me this opportunity. Actually, she's been the huge force of like, you belong up there, you're going to do this. And I never would do it for myself. But she said, you take the joke and you listen to it, and where the laughs are, that's what you keep. You either rewrite or reword what almost worked but didn't, or you decide what to just totally get rid of. But what you just said, that's it. Sculpting it.
It's sculpting it. It's really sculpting it. And sometimes you're going to have a joke or routine that you just believe in, and nobody else does, and it'll take it for years. And I'll never forget, because I used to be really radical when I started, because I was coming
I can't imagine that.
Exploratory theater that was mixed with yoga. And the stuff that we did at the Woodstock Festival, we did things like, we'd take one word like mine, and we'd build a whole world, and then go through all the world wars. And then we're just about to destroy the world. Someone claims mine, shooting everybody. And then somehow the world is reborn. It's just that I worked very experimentally with some outrageous directions, which was very helpful. But I had a bit that, in fact, you have to be careful in these classes, because I was taking a class and they said, that's not funny. That is not funny. And it was a stupid bit. It was on I Can Handle It, which was a song about that. I can handle it. Oh, and then I go crazy. Somebody calls me and said, you know that bit that you do? I just saw somebody do it on Fridays, which was a comedy sketch show at the time. So you have to be very careful about listening.
We've talked about that. How do you protect your material?
Protect your material and also protect it from, if you believe in that piece of material, find a way. If you really believe in it, find a way. And then you eventually have to give it up if you just see that it's not working. But
well, and there is certain things like, to be honest with you, I have a lot of friends that are going to come to the show. And I said, I would rather be in front of an audience of complete strangers than be in front of people that all know me. And then I'm like, well, a lot of them do know my story. And then there's a certain amount. And I went, oh, if you start thinking down that road of what so-and-so's get, you are going to just totally traumatize yourself from getting up there and just say, Anna Marie, like.
Well, that room, you're going to get there's a lot of laughter in that room, and the laughter stays. So you're not going to have a chance to look around and see, is that a friend of mine that's, I used to hate, I'd have friends come with sour faces, and I would go, you are not invited. And now, with a sour face, miserable.
Yeah.
And now I can have anybody. Even if I know someone that, doesn't buy me a friend, but they're a friend. And they're usually not doing comedy. They're afraid to do comedy, but they like to criticize. Now I can have anybody. You can eventually have anybody.
Now, have you been married?
No. I felt married.
You felt married?
I felt married.
You've had enough relationships to say I'm
more
good.
Than enough.
I'm good. And do you, as far as that goes, the jokes about dating in L.A., applying it to, you can generalize it and say it's everybody. A lot of the Instagram sketches that the kids are doing, it's all about relationships. And I had a young man in here who wants to do something. He said they're all starting to look alike, and I agree. Don't get me wrong; these are very talented. But if you're not looking at what everybody's doing and saying, "Okay, I've been doing this for so long, now I need to bring it up a level," so I admire the comedians that are understanding that they have to stay away from becoming that blend of looking and sounding like everybody else.
Exactly.
Has anyone... See, I'm surprised I haven't seen you in an Instagram sketch. These kids are missing out on so much fun because they're sticking with the young girls and these young skits and not really taking in how much fun is out there.
Everything right now is like opening up for myself because I really am a very good producer. This Women in Comedy show that I did was excellent. I was honored and roasted at the Friars Club. A surprise roast.
Wow.
That was shocking. But, I don't know, because I'm not a very organized person. But when other people are dependent on me, I get more organized. I think that might be true of you, is that I am a good boss, a good administrator. Yet on my own, but I have, because I know so a lot of the stuff that I have, people do 20 years later. And I said, girl, before you are dead, you have to do all that stuff, because I do have that, as I said, I have that rich exploratory background.
But you could set your camera up, do 60-second little clips, or run your movie, have your Instagram, and run it every day, and actually have your own little show that, and I mean, out there in Instagram land, that translates into dollars.
I know. I just don't, that mentality, I'm still,
Well, it's also not having an audience, right? I mean, a lot of that energy of performing, it can't be matched without having that.
But if you're into the language, if you're into the words, that's another level, because you're an artist and you're an artist. Your medium is words, expressions, and everything else. And that's why I could get up and go to Comedy Traffic School at 8 o'clock in the morning, because I was going for my own inner. And that's what people do say about me also, that I put across feelings that are really, that are there. And again, it's that exploratory, that background, that background that I had, which really...
Well, I think that, a lot of that you do bring to the table. I've had the pleasure of seeing you perform and have just, watch you master what you do. And it's something to be respected because, like I said, it's watching how how much comedians put into what it is that they do, the energy levels. You can do 2 or 3 shows a night, you know.
And the other thing is that acting background is very helpful because an actor has an inner life and a comic has an inner life. You know, they're not inseparable. It's, you know, when you
really, that's interesting.
Yeah, you have an inner life. So and that makes it makes your comedy that much deeper because you're not just coming from I walked down the street and I just saw this big fat person. You know, I really felt so much for this fat person. You know, but acting for me was never as exciting as stand-up. Stand-up was very exciting.
And speaking of stand-up, I'm like actually taking. I think women are the only ones who can appreciate my feet in this boot. I'm releasing it. I am because I can. Nobody see my foot on film. But I have to say, have you
but
ever?
She's got flowered socks.
Let me enlighten you. I happen to be the queen of. Are you gonna throw those out? Those are brand new. I'll take those. There was a woman I was doing a job for, and one of the things that they did, they cleaned out all the kids' never worn stuff, and there was so many socks, which is I'm laughing, going, look, and they match. For now, I'm the queen of unmatched socks. But I just wanted to. I also wanted to point out being on stage and being comfortable. Okay, being comfortable in the respect that, you know, everything that you do, you know, I talk to a lot of comedians about how you dress when you go on stage. I've seen a lot of people not understanding that there's so much that goes into that. I mean, Michael Collier is one of the best examples I've seen on stage. That man's lit up like a Christmas tree in design. But and look what Kevin Hart's doing. And you have to have that certain ability to be memorable because when you're doing shows, the audience is hit with like so many comedians now that you have to stand out more so, right? As like you said, for women having that little bit of thing. Do you think for women, like I've asked this, being like, let's face it, sex sells. Instagram, these comedians that are these young girls that are blessed, but they're also comedians and they're funny. And like I've had them on my show going, do you find that hard? Because, you know, as a woman being funny and being pretty, you know, does that conflict?
Well, I was never that pretty, so it's easy for me. I always had one of these faces that could go from left to right. You shoot me at one angle. You know, people would say to me, my God, you were so gorgeous. I said, who are you talking about? You know? And then I turn the other way. So that's something that I always had. But, you know, I think it is. I know I had a friend that was beautiful, but you know what I find? People that are beautiful from a little distance are usually troubled people because they feel when people get really into their face, they can see that they're not that good looking. Right. She committed suicide.
Oh.
So and she was a comedian. And it was...
You know, that's... I was thinking about that as far as, like, the comedians that have committed suicide. Freddie Prinze, back in the day when he had...
Sure.
And he came up so fast. I mean, that's the other thing, like, the saying, and it hit me the other night. It's the guy who told me, the director, it's not failure people are afraid of, it's success. Because once you become successful, if you think you worked hard to get there, then it really kicks in.
But it's both ends. What I've seen on the bottom and on the top.
Right.
It's so I think it's a mentality more than it is exactly where you are. Because I've seen people, as I said, this girl was really just starting out. She had a nice little buzz around her. And then what was more crushing than Robin Williams? I mean, there's nothing more. I mean, and so many in between. But I think I'm just thinking about that right now. I think it's really a mentality more than it is the job. And I think you're more, your feelings are so much more exposed when you're a comic, and especially if you're a comic doing drugs. Just like a singer.
Not advisable.
Yeah,
I've met a lot of them.
Yeah, just like the one thing that I like. There's another piece of material. I said, I feel terrible about these celebrities, musicians dying, but it does make me look good. All I have to do is breathe.
You know, there really is a lot to be said about this world of entertainment. Is people have this vision of it outside of what it is, and then when you look at and you're in the midst of it. First of all, it's not a big a community as people would like to think. It's a very small community. Everybody kind of has an idea. If you're a piece of crap, people know that. If the buzz about somebody always, somebody said, always look like you're doing something. People love, they think you're going somewhere. They're going to.
But comics are such a community.
Right?
It's such a community. And one thing I always say about comics, we grieve very well. Everybody kind of forgets because I go to all the memorial services but comics are they always say that they're very deep. Most of the time they're very deep people.
Very deep people.
And there's a lot of shallowness going on because there's so many comics.
Well, so many comics. A lot of and the ego thing, I'm like, that's one of the things too. Like, I've met a lot of people. My brother was in the music industry. I have friends just, being around famous people. Yeah. And, everybody has this, they're people, yeah. Right? And they do something really well and get paid a lot of money for it. But I've seen in LA, people are spoiled out here because the talent out here is you get the best of the world here trying to make it. And in comedy, to watch some comedians and you're just like, this person's going to make it. This person, I had a comedian on my show and I'm like, I know I'm interviewing a star. This kid is going to make it. But there's no guarantee in this industry you'll be right place, right time.
It's, what do you call it? I mean, I knew Chelsea Handler was going to make it. I knew Sandra Bernhard was going to make it. And that, and we were very much compared. I mean, we had the same management and everything else. But it's true. Most of the time you really can tell. But going back to that thing about women and good looking, it's the way they pull it together. I know the style very much is, and these are people older, younger, whatever, there's a gray look among comedians lately, with jeans and just not, I think.
A t-shirt with something written on it and a
t-shirt.
Well, I did say that to my young male black comedians. I said, Let me tell you something. I'm at the Comedy Store, and I'm going to talk to you like a white person watching a show. You're standing in front of a black curtain. Just saying. You are a person of color. You are wearing a pair of jeans. You're wearing fancy sneakers. You've all got, if I was going to focus on anything, it's like, damn your shoes. But you all have t-shirts, something written on it. Either you have a hat, but there's this thing that I know about white people. If you pull the comedians off stage and ask them who said they wouldn't be what stood out about someone. And I'm like, there are comedians I've seen that really ace that and understand that, man, I got to do something other than just me to be not mistaken for him somewhere.
Yeah, but it's not that dress is the least important in a way. I just find it dull to see people dressed in a dull way. I obviously
look at Sinbad.
Yeah.
Sinbad, I'd watch him as a kid. He was always lit when he came up.
Yeah.
Bernie Mac, always incredibly
Well, you
dressed.
can see me. I still
and
do this.
No, but you're distinguishable style.
Right. Well, because to me, I'm into the magic of performance, and and stand-up comedy is about as magical as you can get. I mean, because you're taking so little and you're giving, you can build it to so much, there's so much communication that you have between people. And
and you feel that from when you're on stage and feeling that.
And when people are laughing, because then it makes it easier for you to just relax and really go deeper. And as I said, one of the things that I have is I work a lot off the top of my head. I mean, even, I've been able to do that. And that's, as I said, that's one of the workshops I want to do, something called the Riff Room, like the jazz thing.
Right. I would so sign up for that.
Yeah, I want to do that. And because
you really get to see what, the comedic mind. I keep pushing. I want to keep, until I get the thing up and running. But I bought the domain name Disaster to Laughter, and it's the art of comedy. And everyone goes, nobody owned that? And I'm like, yeah, I was really surprised because that's what you do, taking something that ain't so great, that disaster, and turn it into laughter. And to have people be able to, there's something healing. I had one girl say, well, I did comedy because I was really depressed, and it was like, it's like therapy. And I'm like, really? Never would have put those two together.
You wouldn't have? Oh, that's
no,
interesting.
as an audience member, I would never think that's what I saw was incredible storytellers. Able to tell a story in a way
I think comedy has always been that way.
Right.
But I think nowadays there's also more, because people reveal so much more about themselves.
Oh, please, yes.
You know, whether it's sexual abuse and, you know, the whatever it is, people are revealing so much more about themselves that I go back to what I started doing, the psycho comedy, a therapeutic comedy, when comedy and misery come face to face and you don't know which is going to win, you know. And hopefully, you know, we know which will win. And that there's also, people can't like go nuts with you know, if they're used to that laughter, just like the drug, they can't just get that addicted to it. You know,
no, but, and one of the comedians said that he said that, you know, in telling, it isn't always about getting the laugh. Sometimes what you're doing up there is you have to say something that has some depth and meaning to it, because your audience is going to know you as a good comedian. You have to be able to put that vulnerability, that truth out there.
And not only that, but the laughs are so much stronger when you come from a vulnerable place. It's the laughs are a lot stronger.
You know, I remember watching Robin Williams for the first time on Mork and Mindy, because, you know, that was my generation. I never seen anything like him. And what really came off of watching him was like, I think of the Tasmanian Devil from Bugs Bunny is his energy, and how he would just, from one thing, it was like watching sheer energy in a room, in a body going off. And everything that he said was brilliant. So, yeah, what you said about, you know, I beyond devastated. I mean, that hurt my bones.
Yeah, and it's the only consolation is because he put enough energy out there to have lived as if he was 90. That he put that he put it out there. He put that energy,
right,
you know, out there.
And when you come on stage, I have to ask you this because, you know, I'm always amazed at every single comedian. How you doing out there? Every single, it's more to put the comedian at ease.
Yeah,
has to have something to say.
Yeah.
Well, mine's going to be, oh, by the way, everybody wants to know how you doing tonight. I'm from Boston. I don't give a shit.
Yeah.
Let's just get that out here right now. That East Coast, I don't give a shit. And, you know, wouldn't it be funny if we actually did engage? Would you ever want somebody to tell you when they say, how you doing? How you feeling?
How do you think I'm feeling?
How do you think I'm
Yeah.
It's like, oh, man, don't ask, whatever you do, don't ask her how she's feeling. Yeah, right.
One of the things that I like to do when I start off the set lately, especially because it's the 50th anniversary of Woodstock, I say, let's all get together, do what we did in the old days. Take off your clothes, roll in the mud, and let's have sex. Well, let's wait till the end of the show. I like to end with a climax. You know.
But that type of thing, you know, in 50th, oh my gosh, 50th. I'm just, you know, my grandfather died at 97, and his friend came in and he said, you know, Fred, we've been blessed. You lived a good long life. And my grandfather's response was long. It went by in a blink of an eye. And it does, though, doesn't it? I mean, you would rather have your life. Have you met, obviously, okay, you've met women where you're talking to them and you're like, oh, shoot me, if I was you, I would just die. I don't care how much money you got. I don't care what style, whatever you call you're wearing. You are one miserable, never lived your life, regretfully so, never got uncomfortable, ever, or messy, you know?
I don't know. I think, you know what I don't like is when people are complaining all the time. I have a hard time with people complaining. You know, it's kind of like, I think you have to get to the point, well, some people have a lot to complain about, you know, but get to that point in your life where you accept your life and you make the best of it. And I don't mean that in a maudlin way, you make the best of it, you know, But,
Suck it up, make the best of it.
Make the best of it, But I don't know. The thing is, I had a romance last year, and I was able to take his exact lines.
Shut up.
I took his lines verbatim. We'd be in the middle of the deed, and he'd sit right up and say, "Are you doing this with anybody else?" And I'd look around and say, "Well, not right now."
I really have to say that, is there anything that you would consider off limits for you? Do you do political?
I infer. I mean, the political is so obvious nowadays. It's so obvious. It depends where you are, because I know, I have a niece, and my family is pretty tight, but, they're into Trump, and I just said to my sister, I said, just stay away. He saw me, her husband saw me with a picture of me and Seth Meyers. And to me, I'm showing off. I got this picture of me and Seth Meyers. Yeah. And he says, "Ugh, that liberal, I hate him." Help.
Yeah, you have to, there's a certain thing about people getting so angry. I find that immediately, I understand there's a lot of emotion out there. And people go to anger because it's just so convenient. It's just so accommodating. You could get angry before you could get sentimental, okay? And it would put people uncomfortable. Just like that lunatic's face, taking pictures. And, like I sit there and I'm just like, the chaos. Everybody goes, "Oh, you watching this?" I go, "No." I gauge what's happening in politics by the looks and the way my friends carry their body posture. I can already tell you, things aren't good today. He did something again I personally don't understand why whenever he does something and people, you ever meet people that go, "Can you believe?"
Can you? Yeah, well, that's the main.
You believe?
Can you believe this happened? Yeah.
It's like,
I find in terms of comedy that the political environment is fun. The political environment, because when things are just moving along, the more chaos there is, the more
because there wasn't a whole lot of making fun of Obama.
Obama, yeah.
They were real quiet at Saturday Night Live. They had a few things, but when I was sitting on my show the night he got elected, right?
Yeah.
And Sean G. Grant was in the chair, and he was and I kept saying, "Sean, it's a comedy show. Don't freak out on me." And he says, "I'm witnessing the apocalypse." Okay, and I said to him, "But think of all the comedy that is going to come from this."
It's really good for comedy. And, I don't know, a lot of people are afraid, politically, there's too much but Saturday Night Live always pulls something out that we haven't seen before.
Well, yeah, somebody who just, what's his name went on TV. They said Chevy Chase. There was an article about what he's at. They suck, and it's never been like when I was on. And I'm like, what age is senility when you're that bit? How do you get bit after having the life that you have?
Well, he made a lot of mistakes, and that's the whole thing. That's mistake.
Isn't that like a no? You don't do that. You don't
go over your mistakes. But how can you help it? It's hard. It's hard not to. I know something snapped. I know what snapped in me. The reality that life really is short.
Isn't it? I told you.
Yeah, life
Blink of
really,
an eye.
It's life is really short. And, there's no guarantee if you ponder over mistakes over and over again that you're not going to still do the same mistakes again. There's no guarantee. So just, let it go.
A lot of advice where people would say that, you don't look in the, rearview mirror. You're going ahead. And I said, well, let's just take life as it is. You have to process certain things that you go through. Oh,
especially when you walk in, talking about the word shit, when you walk into shit.
Right.
And if you do it a few times, you better start, there's a smell that you should be able to recognize.
Right.
So you won't repeat the same things over and over again.
And it's so funny because, like, the idea of being, when they say over it, people say, you should be over that. It's like, no, through it. I'm going to get through it. I don't all these things, these verbs you guys have me going over, maybe going around. You got to own the songs and you got to listen to this and this is moving and watch the music you listen to. Well, let me enlighten you. Everything is for a reason. If we didn't fucking have sad songs, right? There has to be a reason people have to cry, people have to grieve, people have to get over to appreciate the things that are good in your life. And to recognize the things that, like you said, I don't want to step with that. That looks like shit to me.
Yeah, I mean, you know what? Yeah, but the thing is, I will admit that and I just finished, was working on some stories for a book called Whatever Happened to the Hippies. And one thing that I did get out of it, the good hippies, I mean, the ones that didn't destroy themselves, they knew about joy. And if you know joy, I mean, joy is a fantastic thing. The problem is with joy, you have to learn not to agonize when you're without it and to really appreciate it when you're with it. And certainly comedy, there's a lot of joy in comedy.
There is a lot of joy in comedy. I mean, I don't know if I know you've followed me on Facebook, but I always say appreciate your comedians because without them, life just wouldn't be funny. And, a friend of mine said that's a great way to look at it. I said, there are things that, if laughter is the best medicine, let me be your pharmacy. That's the other one that I have. It's like comedians have this healing power. We talk about that. And if you were to laugh, I mean, continuously, your sides ache. It's like, it's a great when we should start a spa. Right? Just come in and tickle the shit out of you. I mean, it really is something that is...
Well, no, they're talking about it there. The physiology of laughing is so healthy. And then there's all this discussion. Is it a good laugh? Is it a bad laugh?
Well, I was going to ask you that when you're up on stage and you're listening to it, like, I always say, I wish they would do like a laugh track of like of different laughs that you hear on from the stage point of view, like where that loud laugher is, it's some woman over in the corner that when you can hear it, right? Or, the different kind of things that happen. Do you lock in on the sounds rather than looking at people when you hear that rhythm of laughter, the rolling that starts from one side that goes to the other?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I think it is more of a sound thing because sometimes you can't see the people.
Right.
So it is like a leaning toward, and then some comics really, when they're in trouble, they really hone in to one person and have that dialogue with them. And then it builds and builds and builds from that one person.
Yeah, I've seen that.
Yeah. I like that.
Going into that. And now, you said you collaborate with other people. As far as for joke writing and stuff. And you've been doing this. How many years have you been professionally doing your comedy?
A long time, because I was in and out, and I was an actor, and I worked by myself, and I worked with a partner, and I worked with a team, and I started working at I was performing as a child with these monologues. I would go out and perform. So I like to just say I've been doing it all my life and keep away from that.
I like
how long in the years, it's a little touchy.
Is it?
And there is one good thing about getting older. You're not dead. So
I like that.
Yeah. But I have a lot of death
with what you do
material.
too. I mean, the idea of comedy, like a lot of people would say, it's open ended. You can die doing comedy as far as like you can do it until you die.
And I had his daughter was in my show. The fellow that died on stage.
He died on stage.
He was in Mel Brooks's. I can't think of the big movie that Mel Brooks did that they did a
Lethal Weapon.
No, Mel Brooks.
Mel
Brooks.
Yeah.
So
Mel Brooks.
Mel Brooks. So he did the Broadway show.
Don't even ask me where I went with that.
He did the Broadway. Oh, it's so well known. Everybody knows it. But anyway, it'll come to me. It'll come to me in a minute.
Mel Brooks has so many. Yeah. I know which one you're talking about. He did bring it to Broadway.
He did bring it to Broadway, and it was in the theater many years ago. And one of the leads
died on
stage. And his daughter she worked out with us at the Belly Room. And by the way, we did get like 20 minutes on Fox, that show.
Wow.
We did. I mean, so we did get 20 minutes on Fox. And
now, are you traveling? Are you traveling?
No, what I usually do is I go back east, and I haven't done it for a while, but I'll do it next year. I go back east and work out of the East Coast.
Okay.
Work out of New York.
Oh, wow.
So because I just, I miss that. I miss that energy of New York. I
hear a lot about the energy in New York. I'm from Boston. I've been to New York once, and it was only because somebody needed somebody to go on a long ride with them.
I spent a long time in New York.
Yeah, but everybody talks about, the energy in New York. I find energy here to be incredible, creative energy here. It's the only place.
Did you perform in Boston?
Yes, actually I did. I performed in Boston, but I was a singer. I had a blast. I mean, I would have to say it's really been, a great blessing to be an entertainer and to be a professional.
What kind of songs did you do?
I believe it or not, I sang country music. Back in the day, I was the top female vocalist from the Country Music Association of Nebraska and Colorado. And in Boston, it was when Urban Cowboy came out, and everybody flipped whatever concert hall they had into a line dancing.
Oh, that's so funny.
Everybody was doing that.
My partner and I had a song, Mountain Jews. Raised on borscht and kosher dill, way atop the high Catskill. Everybody, oy vey, chicken into hay, oy vey, chicken into hay, lox and bagels every day.
I love it. I really do appreciate you. I mean, I really do appreciate, like I said, the professionalism that I've seen. I called you to do this, and you were like, sure, just let me know when and where I've got to be. And also seeing you, it's like watching you perform. I'm like, it blows me away because I really do appreciate what comedians and how hard it is. I mean, everybody makes like, they're just funny people getting up and doing their thing.
I love when you say how hard. I love it.
Hard. Brings you home. Huh?
And the other thing that I've been doing over the years, I have developed a lot of comedic characters. So I have a lot of strange comedic characters that are disorganized. I have therapists that are nuts. I have, gangster mothers. So that's been fun too, translating it into actor. And I've done some cable, done some movies, and now I'm doing a little casting. I used to have a little casting of comics, and I think I'll start that again.
You should. They'll be banging down your door. That's where everybody wants to go right now. I mean, and I don't know. Are you performing anywhere? Because as we wrap up the show. And like I said, you'll be able to see you again on YouTube. This will also go
YouTube, to definitely on YouTube.
Yeah.
And then and also Palermo's I'm at. Flappers I'm at. Palermo's I think I'm at
Thursday.
The end of the month on Thursday.
Yeah, with God, I love what she's doing
Cha
up there.
Cha. Yeah, Cha Cha. And Flappers with Grace Fraga's Love at First Laugh.
Oh, wow.
I work with her, and that's fun. And I am going to be starting some very exciting new shows that I can't even talk about because they're radical. Some of them are very radical. And because I'm going back to producing because I had such a great experience. Well, keep me in mind,
lady, and we will let you know how this is going to go. When I come back next Tuesday,
can I mention one more thing? Yes. My blog is called Woodstock and Earthlight Revisited .blogspot.com. But if you look up I performed at Woodstock, the Tie-Dye Diaries,
then sure, come on. I would love to do that. And thank you so much for coming on. I'm psyched that you were able to share your knowledge. Believe it or not, I'm like a sponge. I can't get enough of this. It's like going to school. I really feel like I get a free education after 2 years of listening to comedians. I'm going to be doing Nancy Bellany. Thank you so much. The Pasadena Ice House, 7 o'clock, October 6th, Saturday night. My first 5.
And it's a great show. And she'll just add so much more to it. 10 other comedians.
So there will be other people that are professionals at this. Other than that, I'll see you out there. Lee, take it out. Big Tipper. Yahweh Poetic, people. Check that out on iTunes.
Just not even no show. I'm a big tipper. When I spend it, I'ma flip ya. So girl, drop it really low.